Hello and welcome to this little excerpt video, and in a moment I'm going to be reading from this chap, which is Sam Spallucci, Ghost from the Past. This is the second outing for my whiskey drinking, chain smoking, trumpet playing investigator of the paranormal, and in a moment we'll be going to have a little scene with his best mate, the Reverend James Francis MacIntyre, or as everybody calls him, Spliff, when he tries to basically blag his way onto a version of the Antiques Roadshow. But first, please give me a quick like, give me a quick subscribe. It makes the heart beat so much faster. Anyway, straight on with the story now. There'll be a little pause in the middle because it's all like one scene, miss a bit, then another scene. But you'll catch the gist as we go along. As we made our way through the crowds of antique holders, I noticed a face in the crowd. There at the edge of the room was a grey-haired man whose eyes seemed to follow me. I strained to get a better look at him, but rather large lady wearing a horrendously flowery dress and carrying a parlour palm in an Art Deco vase sailed in front of me. By the time she had finished eclipsing the light from the windows, the man was nowhere to be seen. I frowned. He had looked familiar. But for now, I need to keep up with Spliff. We were led directly to a table that was set up with an expert, a cameraman, and someone who, judging by the large headphones, appeared to be some sort of sound technician. A number of people who had obviously been waiting in the queue for quite a while chuntered and murmured amongst themselves. If looks could kill, then the Antiques Mafia would have been taking out a bounty on our heads. Spliff, of course, was either totally oblivious or just didn't give a monkey's bottom. I lowered my head and tried to avoid the glares. Trevor, the runner called out to the seated expert. I have a perfect one for you. This is Reverend... He turned to Spliff, who was beaming jovially from ear to self-satisfied ear. I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch your name. Oh, MacIntyre, he provided. Reverend James Francis MacIntyre. I'm the chaplain at Loonside University. Marvellous, the runner simpered. Reverend MacIntyre and his partner, actually, I'm not his... Ow! I've brought you an item for you to look at. Jolly good. Trevor was a rather red-faced man in his 50s with a sort of moustache that normally deserves a good twirling. He leaned over the table and shook hands vigorously with both of us. He had something of a perspiration problem, and I had to resist the urge to wipe my hand on my coat. Spliff was now in full flow and slid into the empty seat next to the man without even being asked. So, what is it your chaps have for me, then? I sighed in resignation and dropped down next to my best friend as he dug out his china dog out of his shopping bag. It's this little fellow, Trevor. I inherited him a few years back from when my dear mother died. She in turn had inherited him from her mother. So he's been in the family for quite a while now. We're all very attached to him. I had to admire his balls. As far as I was aware, Spliff's parents were still alive and kicking north of the border in Scotland. I wonder what they would make of this, if it was aired. Then I decided that after 40 years of him, they were probably used to his various shenanigans by now. Trevor took the dog from Spliff and, turning it over in his hand, started to comment on such things as its glaze, its colour, and its markings. I, in turn, started to tune out the event and let my eyes wander around the room. The huddles of onlookers surrounding us, peering over each other's shoulders and pointing at the charity piece that Spliff had brought along. If only they knew, I thought to myself. Then, through the undulating current of the crowds, I caught sight of a grey-haired man once again. He stood off to one side, and when he saw me, he began to walk slowly in my direction. As he did so, I saw that he was limping, and realisation struck me it was Mr. Flint, caretaker of the Ashton Hall. The man who had annoyed Malcolm Wallace at the end of a Credate meeting on Wednesday. I smiled at him, and he nodded a silent acknowledgement. Well, this is interesting. These words from Trevor the expert caught my attention. I swiveled back to see what was going on. He was carefully examining a marking underneath the china dog. My, I don't get to see many of these at all. What is it? Spliff was perched on the edge of his chair, rapt. Is it good? It most certainly is. This mark here, the expert leant over the dog and pointed to a series of blue smudges on its base. Tell us where it was made, and indeed by whom. It was cast right here in Lancaster by none other than Robert Gillow. I frowned. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't he a furniture maker, not a potter? Indeed he was, Trevor beamed, but just after his marriage in 1729, and before he set up his shop the year after, he experimented with china wares. Some say it was boredom, some that it was a failed business venture. Personally, I think they were gifts for his new wife, but then I'm an old romantic at heart. There was a pause as the unasked question circulated the table. Robert Gillow. Chinaware. How much? It was Spliff who voiced what we were both thinking. So, not that I'm ever thinking of parting with it, but, you know, is it valuable? Trevor stroked his chin and motioned for the runner. I think we need harmony on film of this one. I thought Spliff was going to explode. Not only was his bit of tat seemingly valuable, but he was going to meet Miss Briars as well. I chuckled quietly to myself. So, Harmony Briars purred, I believe we have quite a find here. Indeed we do. This was Trevor the expert, hamming up his time in front of the camera for all it was worth. This charming little dog came in this morning with Reverend MacIntyre here. It sure is a curious little piece. I had to admit there certainly was something about her. Was it her eyes, her voice, or just her mannerisms? I could not tell. What I could tell, though, was Spliff had it bad. Oh, so bad. It was my mother's. Really? Yes. I call it Scrotum. I slapped my palm over my face and did my best not to laugh. I really did. Peeping through my fingers, I saw a perplexed Miss Briars shoot a look at the cameraman. He twirled his fingers. Carry on. Ever the professional, she turned to Trevor the expert and asked, So, what makes this little chap so special? Trevor puffed out his chest and entered into his little spiel about Gillow and his wife, as Spliff just continued to sit and stare in awe at his own object of wonder. So, Trevor, Harmony Briars smiled, this just begs the question. How much is Reverend MacIntyre's scrotum worth? Well, I hope you enjoyed that little fella. Like I say, please give me a quick like, give me a quick subscribe. Hopefully there should be a link kicking around somewhere to my website, aschambers.co.uk, should you fancy any more details about my books. Take care. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye now.